Welcome to Vintage Gaming Memories. Shall we play a game?
Encyclopedia. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Now this is an interesting find that I picked up probably about a couple months ago. And I guess as you can tell by the look of it and the shape of it, you probably know what's inside of it, or at least what type of item it is. So let's just jump right into it now and let's see. Well, this is it. This is the Atari Users Encyclopedia by Gary Phillips and Jerry White. Now this came out in 1984, and I guess it's kind of rare, or at least that's what the listing stated. And I actually only saw a couple of these available online when I was looking for this one, and those were in used condition. Now this seller actually had this one and another one that were priced actually a little bit less than the used ones, and it was noted that this was in new condition. And I guess I could tell already it's really not new condition. At least condition-wise, I'm not going to complain, but it's definitely not perfect condition. Just curious if any of you have ever heard of this book, because I have to tell you, I never did. I can't recall exactly how I came about this. I might have been just looking through magazines and books that were online for sale for Ataris, and this one caught my eye because I had never heard of it. Seemed kind of rare because I didn't see many of these being sold, and for a few bucks, I can't recall what I paid. Not too much though. Definitely not the $7.95 price. I think it was about 15 bucks maybe. You know, it's not too bad of a deal. Let's take a look at this closely. Shows 1995 for when it first came out, and looks like this was a sale price after many years, probably sitting on the shelf. The binder looks good. Like I said, just, you know, some wear marks here with the white speckles. And of course the front cover kind of peeling back a little bit, and a little bit of creases here. Nothing major. So, what is this book all about? I think you can pretty much figure it out by the name of it. The Atari Users Encyclopedia. Kind of more of a reference book that's Atari related. The book kind of looks interesting with the title being on top in very small font, and then the front has this, you know, very generic looking picture of an XL. And I think those are two 810 drives perhaps. This sort of reminds me of an English assignment I had in maybe high school where I just slapped on the name on top, put a picture in the center, and then filled the inside with a bunch of pages of information. Let's take a look at this. Really, I mean, it's not too bad as far as how much information you're getting. Like 200 and I saw 267 is the last page that's numbered. And I think there might be just a couple pages after that for like ordering other books that are available by this company, by the book company. Let's dive right in and check out what's inside here. If we look at the preface, it does give you a nice summary of what you can expect to find inside. The Atari Users Encyclopedia is your one definitive reference book for your Atari computer. By deciding to own it, you have made an investment in your computing future. It will save you hundreds of hours by bringing material from many sources into a single, easy-to-use alphabetical reference handbook. So by that, I guess this is going to be your all-in-one single source of reference, or at least a good summary of the reference of information that you might be looking into. So let's take a look at just some of the sections in here, and then we just jump right in. So let's look at all this. Sample programs and instructions. Looks like here we got some programs. Oh, here's a program that actually utilizes the peek command to show you what happens when you press a particular key or keys. Some of the REM statements is how I'm getting that information by looking at it. What else we have? A buttons program, a demonstration program. This looks like a graphics. I saw some graphics commands here. Yeah. Graphics 17, graphics 1. It's got some cool stuff here for you to play with and see what you get out of it after you type it in, acting like as if you were a programmer of some sort. Wow, how many pages? We're on page 41 up to 40. I think 41 is the last page. Yep. So now in 42, we're now in the appendix section. And this is what I thought this was going to be mostly like. The appendix will give you just keywords that you can look up in alphabetical order and get a quick summary or informational description of what that means, whether it's a word or even an acronym, as I see a bunch of acronyms here. You know, obviously DOS, Disk Operating System. What is INT for integer? What else? We have ABS, absolute value. Oh, and here's actually where we really start. That was the appendix, and now we're going to start with the actual encyclopedia. Starting on page 45, looks like we're going to be with the A's. And I think we're going to go, how far will this go from A through Z? It's going to just jump right in. Wow, the bulk of this is really the true encyclopedia. Those programs are just kind of nice to have in the beginning, but we're looking at pages 45 through 241 is letters A through Z as an encyclopedia for you to look up various words, acronyms, or whatever you may want to just see if it's even in here related to the Atari or computers, I think, in general. Basically Ataris, though. So let's just take a look. Let's see what we have here. I can see already some of the stuff is technical related, or at least programming related. Here we go. We got Antic. This is cool. Antic and Analog. There's Antic. Not only the chip, but also the magazine that we all loved back in the day if you had an Atari. And then Analog Computing, another magazine that was often subscribed to by a lot of Atarians. ASCII. I'm sure they have ATASCII as well, which is Atari ASCII. Let's see if I can find that. This is AS. Here's ASCII control characters. Some assembly opcodes. Assembly language. Oh, all the Atari computers I see here, the Atari 800XL and hardware, 825 printer, 600XL. The other printers here, the 1020, program recorder, the infamous Atari 1450 XLD, that of course never came out. There's the ASCII, the Atari Standard Code for Information Exchange. A version of ASCII which has identical codes for alphanumeric characters, but different codes for the first 32 characters. You know, what I have noticed as I'm just skimming through here is that there are a lot of games being called out. I mean, you see Atlantis here. That's a game. Atlas of Canada. That's a educational game. Baja Boogies. So that's cool. It's not only just technical terms, there's also games listed here. I haven't seen any names or any individuals like Nolan Bushnell or anybody of Atari importance being listed here. You know, it's just typically it's more of a encyclopedia of computer components, computer words, games, again, all related to the Atari. There's Choplifter, Claim Jumper, C-Load Command. This is pretty good. I mean, this would have been very helpful if you're very new to the Atari back in the day and you wanted just to get a quick reference guide. And now we're on letters D. Let's just keep going through this and see if anything catches my eye besides all these games that are being called out. fast forward to the 2024 or 2025 or even a few years back, I know there's been some really good books on the games that were produced back in the 80s, along with the details about the Ataris in general. And I've actually reviewed a few of these books on the channel, which they just have an amazing presentation with their detailed color photos, interviews of the developers, the in-depth background of the games, and just pretty much overall layout of the book. It really makes for a great vintage gaming book to have in one's collection. Now, the links to these videos are in the description. Be sure to check them out if you have a chance. Whoa, here we go. Games. Check this out. Speaking of games. So on page 129, we have all the games, looks like, listed here from back in 1984. Let me give you a close-up view of this so you can see what we're looking at. And again, this is as of 1984. So some games that came after obviously won't be listed. Let's take a look and see if we can find Nolan Bushnell. We'll go with the N's first, and then we'll go with his last name. One of the co-founders of Atari. So with the N's, there's not much. And I don't see Nolan. And I look at the B's, I don't recall seeing Bushnell there. Bruce Lee, the game. But nope. How about Ted Dabney? He's another one. I'll go D's for Dabney. Another co-founder for Atari. Nope. And I'm sure T's will not have Ted. And no. So that's all right, but it's got a lot of good information here. I saw something that caught my eye as I was skimming through. Let me see if I can find that again. It was like a whole bunch of chips or something. Where did I see that? Maybe that was in the back. Oh yeah, here it is. So here's a list of all the chips that are within the Ataris. It's nice and listed here by numeric order. As we're getting near the back, what else do we have? Vendors. Well, this is going to be pretty cool. So here are vendors listed in alphabetical order, and I'm guessing these are vendors that are probably noted within this book itself, like maybe they're computer companies or gaming companies that produce some of the games that were listed in here, or even just some of the hardware or clubs. Atari Game Club, for example. The Atari Program Exchange, APX. And it says right here, APX, see Atari Program Exchange. This is pretty neat. What I like looking at some of these things is to see, is there any companies that are close to where I grew up? And, well, here we go, Amdec Corp. Actually, that's really close to where I grew up. Elk Grove Village, that's probably about 10 minutes away from where I lived when I was a kid. Oh, look at that. Here's one. And I didn't realize that was in my home state. Rockland Corp. Or actually, Rockland Software. That is in Arlington Heights, or was in Arlington Heights, Illinois. That was also about 15, maybe 20 minutes from where I grew up. And Rockland, in case you don't recall what that company produced, made many games, but one of my favorite games came from them was Wizard of War. So that's kind of cool to see. If I knew all that back then, maybe I would have just see if they had a open position for the summertime for a 12-year-old to work and get some money and get some free games or discounts. Oh, wow, look at this. Users group. or groups, plural. This is pretty cool. So I'm guessing this is alphabetical order by state. Can't wait to see if my particular group that I was in, which was CLOUG, Chicagoland Atari User Group, CLAUG. And let's see, we're in Delaware, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois. I don't know any of those. Let's see the next page. There it is, Chicagoland Atari Users Group. Peter Passioni. That is cool. And some other ones in Illinois. Getting very close to the end here. Curious if any of you guys remember your user groups that you might have belonged to back in the day, whether it was Atari or Commodore or Apple or TRS-80. I know there was tons of groups out there for people to get together and just talk about games or just whatever they want during the weekends. I think it was usually held at libraries or a place where they can just rent out for cheap or free, have a little social gathering. CLOUG, the one I belonged to, was at the local library in Wooddale, Illinois, actually. All right, well, I think this is pretty much it. 'Cause at the end, again, we have, I think, the order forms of other books you can purchase. Books for All Reasons from the book company. And that's the order form. And that is the back again. Not a bad book. For this price, can't beat it. It's a nice little book to have in your hands. Now, you could definitely find this online on the Internet Archive, and you can find the entire book. I mean, it's scanned from first page to the last. But there's just always that special element of having the physical item when it comes to something vintage, and especially Atari vintage for me. So I'm happy to have that. But I'm definitely looking forward to putting this on my shelf of other vintage Atari magazines and books from back in the 80s. So this is the Atari Users Encyclopedia by Gary Phillips and Jerry White. Sale price at one point was $7.95. I'm not sure where that was sold at, but originally sold for $19.95. And 267 exciting pages of Atari information from 1984. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think. And until next time, keep that gaming passion from the past alive by living it today. Take care, everyone.